Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw some more complicated forms. Complicated for a couple reasons. One, if it's on its side. So this is just a simple comet cylinder, straight verticals, one ellipse, two ellipse. All I'm going to do is put it on its side on an angle, like so. And I'm going to draw it. My point of view is a little different than the cameras, but I can see more of this than the camera can. But I'm just going to show you how to go about that, and I'll draw it here, because in your still life, you might have some objects like I do that are tilted on the side. After that, we'll make a separate video on how to, this is basically the same form, with the exception that it has this center part come out. Let's get all this stuff out of the way. This nozzle, whatever you want to call it. And how would you go about that? Because it's on a diagonal, it's coming towards you. It's not easy because it's not vertical. So I'll discuss that in separate videos. I'm also going to discuss how to draw something like this as also on its side, because it's really simple to draw something like this. It angles down. It's not a straight line. It kind of angles down, as you can see, tapers down. But if that was on its side in this direction, how would you go about that? Because that's tricky, because this line is now flat against the plane of the table, but the table line is not always straight. So it's something you have to really sight and figure out, and then you can figure this in out, and you have to kind of work backwards. So that's a tricky thing. It's actually really tricky. And then I'll make another video about how to apply a handle to a mug, just separately, just a handle part. All right, so right now I'm just going to focus on the comet. You can see I kind of have my still life still set up here because I'm working on it as we speak, but this is emphasizing stage 3, which is called drawing more complex forms, or forms that are in different orientation that make them more complex, or accessories. Accessories are things like handles and stuff like that. Straws, those are accessories. Okay. First thing is you always measure the height versus width. And you just use your pencil. It's called a rule of thumb. You measure the width. Actually, I'll do it here. You measure the width. Actually, the width is wider than the height, so you can't really measure the width and the height, so you have to measure the height, in this case, into the width. So I'm going to try to, as you can see, I move my hand back and forth to like just make sure it's, all right, that's my height, right? And then I would count this into, that's with 1, it's like 1.5, maybe a little more than 1.5. But that was me showing you. I'm going to do it here. But you always want to establish your overall ratio of the object, the highest, lowest, widest point. Okay, so I'm just going to do it really quickly. So because my point of view, because I'm a little over to the left, the height of it is actually shorter than the width. It's almost a full perfect square. Let me just double check that. Yeah, the height is just a hair shorter than the width. So I'm going to draw my height first. Can you see that? And I'm using a 2B pencil so you can see what I'm doing. And so I said the height is shorter than the width. So this is my height from here to here. Just making it up, or making up the height, and everything else will be dictated from that. So now I'm going to use this as a measuring tool, just as a, well, kind of as a measuring tool. Did that a little weird, but it works. That would be a perfect square, because I took the this measurement and I just added it to the right. That would be a perfect square. And I said the height is a little shorter than the width. And I keep forgetting which is shorter. the height or the width. So I got to remeasure. The other thing you can't forget to do is extend your arm all the way out. Otherwise, you're going to get different measurements every single time. And make sure that you're, how far back are you? Are you seated in the same position? All that stuff. Wow, I'm getting too many different measurements here. The width is shorter than the height. Okay, so I made this, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit shorter. So this is where I had it. I just made it a little bit shorter. It was about that much shorter, not too much, just a smidge. That's, to me, is a smidge. Okay. And I've done this 1,000 times before in other videos, so you know what I'm doing here. Okay, so we have our overall proportions established. The highest point to the widest point. The next thing I need to find out, so basically I'm going to draw this as if it's a box. Which is fine because what I need to do now is draw the vertical line that's right here. That's the imaginary box. So if I was drawing, I don't have a box in reach. This tissue box here, it's in the same orientation now as that thing. So I'm basically trying to find the corner here, if that makes sense. So I find the corner, which is right here, and I just draw a vertical line. And then after that, I put all my other lines in. And then I find my circle. I find my circle, and I put them in that way. Okay. So I'm going to measure the distance between here and there. It's halfway. It doesn't look halfway, especially from your point of view, because you could probably count this 1, 2, 3, 4. In my viewpoint, it's actually, that's the halfway mark. That's super easy. All I gotta do is find the halfway mark here. Double check that. That represents the vertical line. Now I need to find out where this thing is, the highest point here, which is this thing, right? This line. Where is that in relationship to the overall height? So that measure. It's almost halfway. It doesn't look halfway, but it's almost halfway. It's just a hair short. But this is where your brain comes in and says, no, that thing's super long. There's no way that's halfway. You're making the illusion of this form going back in space. It's called foreshortening. This is a flat sheet of paper. You're making the illusion. So it's most likely what your eyes say it is. If you measure, that's the truth. If you guess or you let your brain tell you what it thinks it is because it knows three-dimensional form, you're gonna get it wrong every time. All right, so I said it's a little less than half. So if I find the halfway point, so put it here, and I said it's a little less than half, I mean just a hair. So I can just guess and say it's just a little less than half. Okay, from that point, I run a line over. I'm just putting a light line through, okay? So I know where that is, but now I'm gonna cite the angle. But as I cite the angle, I'm trying to find a central access line. Meaning, it's hard to explain unless I do it. So, you look at this, that would be the angle, the central axis line of this line going back in space if this was a rectangle. Now, I'll get my tissue box once again. Shouldn't leave it here. Put it here. You can kind of see, actually I'm gonna put it here. You can see the, this line here. That's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to cite that line. And if you look at these two, they both have the same kind of diagonal line. Actually, that's perspective right there. Working its magic. So you want to kind of put this line in. Get the idea of the line. So basically, that would be the bottom line. This will be the top line. But remember the highest point, which was like somewhere in the center here, that's where the highest point lives. So this top line is going to intersect through that top point because that represents this. So if I were to go from a corner or from a corner here, it's not going to work. I have to go with this right here. So what I'm going to do is angle it, and notice see this line here? I'm angling this top line as if it would converge because I can't really cite that. It's a curve. It's really hard. So I'm kind of throwing this information in, as you see. Next thing is I take this back and I cite the lines basically here, which is on the other side of that. That's an easy thing to cite. That's this right here. Sorry, I'm trying to do this. That's an angle that's right there. That's super easy to cite the angle. I'm just going to do it here. Now, some of these things have to be adjusted because once you put your circles in, this line's going to move up. Which is fine. It's just all part of it. Which just made me realize that the bottom part of this, remember how I used that as the top part? This actually can go down here as the bottom part. So this little line that I cited here is actually going to come down here. And this line here is going to go right here. So it's nice that I noticed that now because all I have to do is make lines parallel to what I had. Reason being is when I put my circle in, it's going to touch the bottom part of my original measurement. And I didn't realize that until now. And that's part of drawing. Just you're breaking the form down. You're critically thinking. You're trying to figure all this out. Okay, I feel better about that. Now, I have to take this line and go converge. And I can't really cite it because there's no line there, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to converge a line. And converge a line here. What I mean by converging a line, and this line will eventually converge way out in nowhere land. And these lines might actually converge more. Who knows? That's about right. And what you can do now is just drop these lines down as if you're drawing something in 2-point perspective. And you can take a quick assessment and say, wait a minute, that rectangle looks nothing like that rectangle. that's fine because I'm guessing all this stuff. I can't really get those angles perfect. But I did find that this angle is a little less, which is good because that's going to widen this. And I think this angle might be a little bit more. And that will widen this. It's still not perfect. And I might have to adjust this a little bit more. Now, I'm not finished with this down here, but right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my corners, cross my corners, find my center, make a vertical line through the center, and as if you're drawing in perspective, and that's why we do perspective first, you're going to take this guy and converge it. So it's going to be something like that. It's going to be on a diagonal. And after that, you're going to make that circle. But how do you make the circle? Same thing as if you're drawing from perspective. Find the halfway point. 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 Only on these diagonal lines. Halfway point. Halfway point. And then from there, you're just going to connect them. That's why I like this little guy here. Because remember, these stay the same, the ones on the exterior, because that's what we measured. And this is also called straight line construction. You build with straight lines, and then after you get what you need to get, because it's easy to measure intersecting points and compare and contrast with straight line construction. Other than that, you're guessing and you're hoping for the best. There's no hoping here. You're going to get the information. Okay. So you kind of see this is going back in space. And then after that, you can put your curve in there. So you can kind of see it starting to turn into that circle. What I have to do is apply that same idea to the back line. Okay. I'm just going to recite my angles because I'm just not certain about something here. Okay, that's why. Notice I went from here to here, and now I'm going to here. That helps me out a lot because that square back there was looking way too thin. It wasn't working. I could just tell by looking at it. Quick assessment. So I have that one. Now I'm just going to double check that. Gosh, it even goes in more. It's all part of drawing. This is what it's going to take to figure out. And this guy might even just go right to that corner, which is great. I think that's how it should have gone in the first place. And this line is going to go over to the right more. I have it right here. So I mismeasured that, or miscited that, which is fine. I'm going to take these vertical lines out. I'm going to take all these lines out. Take these lines out. And just by connecting these two, it looks like it's going to work out in my favor. Just using the side of the paper. There we go. Ah, that feels more like a square. I'm happy with that. Now I can start to put this guy in, and then I can start to put all the other information in, and I should be good. This is not an easy form to draw. This takes a little time, takes a lot of measuring, takes a lot of checking, and then once you get it, you're good to go. So the same concept here, cross your corners. Use a small ruler here. Find your center. Oh wait, I made another mistake here. I went a little too quick here. So remember my original measurement of overall height versus width? Remember the middle point of this, that's what that should represent. So that being said, if this angle is here, this angle is going to be something like this, but it should be on a bit of a diagonal going through the center. So you kind of see it's not a major deal. I could probably gotten away with making that a straight line, but if this line goes in this direction, this line's also going to kind of be up on a diagonal, maybe a little bit more than what I just had, but not that much because it has to converge. So something like that. So now I have this that goes here, and then this line back here does the same thing. It's not a straight line across. It goes to the left vanishing point, which would be something like this. So that what I thought was my center is not. And I would have drawn a circle based off of wrong information. I even think I can, no, that's not right. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is take this, put it here, take this, put it down here, and my center is a little bit different than what I thought. And this center here, and remember, when I'm throwing this line in, I'm just kind of guessing. You can even tell that this line might even go down too much. It's not a major deal right now because you're not gonna see that much of this, but the line I'm making right here is going to be between these two angles. And that's why I'm using this graph ruler to help me figure it out. Okay, so after this, then you find the center, halfway, halfway, find the center, halfway, halfway, find the center, halfway, find the center, halfway. Remember, these edges stay the same. And then you connect them. And this is why I didn't want you going to this complex form out of the gates. It's too complex. You'll be struggling forever to draw it, and it helps to know perspective, which you know now, and also helps to know measuring and citing, ellipses, and all that stuff. And it will help you break this down and understand this form. So the next thing you're going to do is you round this out. When you round out this side, it's hard for me to do this. I'm going to have to take the board and bend it down. But after that, then you connect the widest part here. So check this out. I'm just going to connect this point here to the other point there. And I'll connect the widest part here, this point to this point here. I can still put my circles in, and I'll show you that in a second. And you can see this form going back in space. It's converging, and it's looking similar to what I'm drawing here, even though you see this and you see that. From my point of view, because I'm looking at it in this direction, it's a little different and it's more accurate there. So it was a lot of steps. It was a lot of trying to figure things out, but we got it. Next thing I'm going to do, bend the board down. I know this is a long video, but bend the board down, angle this up, and if you have to turn it this way to draw those angles, do it. I'm trying to be very quiet because I've got baby sleeping upstairs, so. Almost finished. I only need to do the exterior part of this, the part that's shown, the back part for now. Okay. Just trying to be really quiet. Okay. Now you can see it's there. I'm going to take my kneaded eraser. I'm going to lighten the lines. Lighten the lines that are not the form. I'll go back in and draw the form. The kneaded eraser is nice because it doesn't erase them, it just takes a layer of graphite off. I like the lines. In this case, I'm going to get something darker. And you can kind of see the form going back in space. Comment. All right, that's it.